Can everyone hear me? Somebody not. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to pivot to our education segment and continue along those lines. The focus of our panel today is equipping the workforce of the future. So this one is particularly important to me. When I look at the three tenets of We Are Human, which are financial and economic parity, culture, and the third one, which I think is just as important as the other two, but one of my favorites, it is education, because education equals opportunity. So when we talk about equipping the workforce of the future, we really want to explore corporate America's role, and quite frankly, all of our roles as a community, in the development of the next generation of Latinos. Dr. Andrade, you spoke to that as well this morning in talking about not just our demographics, but our young Latinos that are up and coming, that we have the ability to pivotably shape, impact, and set the path to. I look at myself as a brick paver. There are many trailblazers in this world. We have one in our audience. Claudia is a trailblazer. But I look at myself as a brick paver, as I'm sure my illustrious colleagues do as well. I'm here to pave the way for you to walk down. But I promise you, if I pave the way for you, you better walk down. So with that, we're going to talk about corporate America's role in the development of the next generation Latinos, as well as the opportunities we can provide in their early development and the future inclusion in the workplace, whether that is as part of 3M, a part of any major corporate organization, as an entrepreneur, as working for a non-for-profit, as trade, whatever our goals and path are, how can we help? So with that, I'm going to start off with our first question. So Irma, what is corporate America's role in ensuring access to education and skilling opportunities for the Hispanic community? And why should this matter to corporate America?
Well, first and foremost, buenas tardes, mi gente. I'm so happy to be here with all of you beautiful faces invested in our leadership and our community, not only now, but moving forward. My name is Irma. I use she and her pronouns. And, you know, I wanted to just start with my own story, right? Like, education is such a pivotal and critical piece of why many of our families come to the U.S. It definitely is my own experience as well, coming from Mexico at a young age of 9 years old. We knew that education, as you mentioned, was a way out and continues to be a way out. In Minnesota specifically, education of our Latino community, though, has not truly happened. It is the only thing that is going to increase our vitality and thriving community as a state. And you know, the 3M CEO earlier, Mike Roman, stated, it is the responsibility of corporate America to ensure that it is leading the change when it comes to education access. And in Minnesota, right, we have 38% of Minnesota Latino community under the age of 18. So that is a great opportunity to ensure that we put the pipelines, the structure, the infrastructure, the support systems now. Our chiquitos, chiquitas are, you know, young enough that we owe it to them to ensure that we have those systems in place. And we need corporate in order to make that happen. You know, as Gail mentioned earlier, Minnesota has a low retention rate when it comes to out-of-state workers. And let's be real, right? Like, the reason is Minnesota, as a beautiful state as it is, it's hard to have people come from Texas, from Florida, and leave the sunny beaches and the sunny weather to Minnesota. So what does that mean? It means that we need to invest in the Latinos that we have now. And of course, like, welcome all the Latinos from everywhere else into Minnesota. But at the end of the day, we are tied to family. The reason I continue to be in this state is because I have my abuelita, I have my mom, and I have my brother in Minnesota, right? And I want to ensure that I am a piece of the growing Minnesota that I know that it can be. And the other thing that I just want to make sure that I say is, when we think of corporate America, I want to switch it up as far as like how to ensure not only that we create pipelines for our people to become the next CEOs, the next directors of marketing, the next vice president of corporations, but one of the things that I cannot not talk about is the role that corporation has on ensuring that our first responder workers also receive the support. I am a proud daughter of undocumented immigrants in this state who work in one of the largest counties that we saw that a lot of folks cannot pronounce, Watonwan. I am proud, not born here, but definitely grew up in a small town of St. James. And the atrocities really that I saw corporations not do to ensure that my family, who is a meat package worker, and my dad, who is also a meat package worker, to have the resources and the access to ensure that we're also, investing in those leaders. I see my family and my undocumented community as leaders all of in itself, and it's important for corporations to ensure that we're also investing, protecting, and ensuring that policies align with supporting the children of those workers. They are just as important as, the leaders that we have here in this room. And so, I've never actually worked in corporate America myself, but I know that one of the talking points is always, the bottom line in that narrative. And the bottom line is very simple for corporate America. Investing in the power of the Latino community is investing in our buying power of more than $213 billion and close to $1.5 trillion as outdated data from 2018. And so, as corporations, investing in the promises such as the Hispanic promises that secures an opportunity for Latinos to be invested in, to ensure that there is mentorship and sponsorship, which is really important. And at the end of the day, it's good for corporations to sign that, and we need more of that. But at the end of the day, we also have to talk about accountability. What does accountability look like when you say that you're investing? And so those numbers of more Latinos in those pipelines and in corporations, we should see them go up in the next few years, if not now. And so the role of corporate America is as important as creating pipelines, but also ensuring that we have protections of the workers, both in these roles, but also in the workers that are, at the end of the day, our first line responders like my parents. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wow, love what you brought forth. Other commentary or other insight from the panel? Patricia's like, nah, she got that. Senator?
Well, I am delighted that you bring up the issue of the connection between corporate America and workers. And I think this is where we connect as a community, as you know quite well. We sustain so many industries as workers. And I don't think that the benefit of corporations has reciprocated to the workers. And we need to do more in terms of organizing. Right now, we have significant problems about, worker safety in many of these companies. Many of these companies are not offering, of course, good salaries and pensions. But our workers need these jobs. They need to work, and they will work under conditions that other workers may not. And I think that has been to the detriment of Latinos. And I am so glad that Irma brings this up as a personal perspective, because she grew up in a family, she grew up in a community where there is a significant, presence of the meatpacking companies, and you will see a lot of poverty. There's a lot of people living, in what we call pre-manufactured homes that are really unsafe. They are not heated. It's a pretty problematic issue, and I encourage you to visit some of these areas because you will learn a lot about the conditions that workers live in, and really compared to the benefit that they provide to the companies that employ people all over Minnesota and rural Minnesota.
Absolutely, and I second that. My father worked for General Motors for 33 years, and as part of UAW, United Automobile Workers, as well as worker safety, that is paramount, and the support that each organization can provide to all of our workers, regardless of status, regardless of title, regardless of role within a given organization. All right, so from that, from what you've talked about, Irma and Senator, wanted to move a little bit into looking at the historical underpinnings of education and who they've typically been focused on. And then from an evolutionary perspective, has where higher education has gone and within our communities, has it kept up with the changing needs? We've had huge population growth and shifts, et cetera, not just here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota, but in many parts of the country. So, Senator, I'd like to tee that up to you and get your insight, because while you're not in corporate America, you do represent all of us from a constituency perspective. And where are we going? How can we change where we're at from a beneficial impact to all of our communities and all of our young and all of our upcoming?
There are some positive trends that we see in Minnesota, and we need to be very proud of it. The day before yesterday, I was in a graduation ceremony in Hiawatha Academy. They have 125 students who graduated. I was delighted, to be there with them, because 99% of those students had registered for college or higher education.
Wow.
So that is a school, for those of you that do not know, that really was created by a group of women who decided that we needed to have an emphasis on culture and language. And those students were in that school from kindergarten, and now they are graduating and going to college. So I was very inspired to be there. But as I think about, this meeting that we're having and this conversation about having in corporate industry, I am a policymaker that has been kind of in many tables. And what I see, and I review, I'm retiring, so this is my last year. I'm not running for office anymore. But in reflecting about my 16 years in conversations with General Mills, with Target, with 3M, what I find is that there are new faces every time I come to the meetings, that there is no retention really in these corporations for Latinos, that many are recruited to come here, they stay for 4 or 5 years, and then they leave. We have had these conversations multiple times with corporations, and we ask this question: why are you leaving? Why do you leave? They say, well, we have better opportunities. This weather is kind of, stinks. Seriously, sorry, it's too cold in here. But then there's also a lack of connection to the community. Many of the people who work here, who work in these corporations, do not connect to the community. So I would like to extend an invitation. And I hope that I don't embarrass you, Marjorie, but I am going to ask you to stand up. A good friend of mine is here who has been working for 3M for many, many, many years.
All right.
Marjorie Henke came here as a very, very young girl, como una niña muy pequeña, and really worked her way out in education. Finally was able to get the papers to be in this country, and went to the University of Minnesota. She is an engineer who does outstanding work and manages a portfolio for this corporation that is quite large and quite impressive.
All right.
I had an opportunity to sit with her not too long ago, and let me tell you, I have tracked her career for a long time, but I had no idea that her responsibility in this company is so big. Thank you for representing us so well, Marjorie. I'm going to read a couple of connected. I know that I run out of time, but I think it's very important that you know these numbers and why I am inviting people in these corporations to connect with the community and to help us open doors. I think it's very important that you know that we are struggling in Minnesota and that we have many students who are now graduating from high school. We struggled with that for a number of years. but now we're struggling to get them to college. It's a struggle. And I'm going to give you some numbers because I think they are very telling. And if you're not concerned about this, you should be. The University of Minnesota graduated 275 students that are Latinos in 2020. The decline, so this is what is alarming. These are numbers that were high before the pandemic. We're now collecting the numbers after the pandemic, and they went down about 15%.
Wow.
So if the University of Minnesota graduated 270 students 3 years ago, I wonder how many students are graduating now. Now, we have more students who go to the University of Minnesota, but they just don't graduate. You need to understand that we have higher participation of Latinos in higher ed, but they are not graduating. Capella, which is the second higher education institution, graduated 157 Latinos, 157. That is during high graduation year. Mankato University graduated 100. And Metro State University, which is one of the most diverse universities in the state of Minnesota, graduated 91. So we have a problem. That's about 700 Latinos graduating, and we have thousands who are graduating from high school. So our story, our history, our connection is important. We are not working hard enough to really connect the experiences of successful people in corporate industry. We are not connecting the experiences and the wealth that exists in these corporations to the workers that have created the capacity and the wealth within these corporations. We need to do more. I would love to have an opportunity to talk about policy in the future, because that is where we have a significant gap. I think that Emilia Avalos, who's doing an exceptional, she was in the previous panel, organizing, political organizing in order to influence the policies that really have made a significant difference. She was very instrumental in passing the DREAM Act. I hope you're aware that the state of Minnesota has a policy in place called the DREAM Act that allows a student to apply for state funding to go to college. And it's incredibly important. I will go back if I have time. I'm sorry I'm running out of time. But this is work that can only be done by your influence, by your organizing, by connecting with the people who are in need of resources, actually, to organize people civically, to connect them to the decisions that are being made at the local and national level in terms of higher education and participation in corporate industry.
Absolutely.
I think I'm running out of time.
No worries. I really am captivated by the statistics you gave in terms of, you know, what the before picture was, right? Which was before COVID, we were already low, right? But we did have graduates, but low. And now, post or through, in my mind, we're still not completely out of COVID. Where are we at now? And I think you've brought up some key points in terms of getting into college is one thing. Staying and graduating and then taking that forward has historically hit our communities very hard. So things that you've outlined in terms of having corporate America have a stronger connection to the community that can build a bridge between high school, between college, and then thereafter, whether it's in the terms of assisted college, college talent in terms of internships, sponsorships, activities where they can, continue to evolve through their college years and get to that finish line. It's something as simple as scholarships, right, that are available to all of us that have an opportunity to do so. So, any other commentary, insight from the panel? Okay, you blew them away, Senator. That's why. So now I'm going to talk about, and we've got 2 questions left that I want to move a little bit more and talk with you, Patricia, a little bit. Patricia, excuse me. So we talked about what's corporate America's role in ensuring access to education and scaling opportunities. And Irma, you spoke to that eloquently, as well as where we've come from an educational perspective, what the effect is in our communities, et cetera, from the senator. But Patricia, I really want to talk about, so we've talked about issues, we've pointed out problems, we've pointed out impact to the community. Now, let's talk about what tools and resources would need to be in place, or can be in place, to support the inclusion and the development of our next generation Latinos.
So I'm going to start with quoting Dolores Huerta. I had an opportunity to see her speak at an educational conference a few years ago in San Francisco, and what she started with sharing with us, she said, educados y preparados. So for non-Spanish speakers, I will say we need to be educated and prepared. Mm-hmm. And much like Dr. Andrade, I was in the 80s, and this is how long I've been doing this work working in college campuses throughout universities in the United States, specifically working with Latino students and population. And so as I was thinking about, just to say what Senator Torres said, nationally, 20%, we've lost 20% of the students during COVID, Latino students. We were, the community was most affected. So we were graduating at higher numbers, Latinas were getting degrees at higher numbers, but we are now looking at the data excellence in education has told us that it's down 20%. And it might be a while, 5 to 10 years before those numbers come back up. So just want to keep aware of that. So there's going to be a scarcity of Latino college graduates. So as I was thinking, and they gave us the questions ahead of time, I thought, well, how could corporate America help? What can you do? I'm an educator, and of course, I want to tell you what to do. So one of the things that I know is that corporate is really ambitious about wanting to recruit on college campuses. They want to recruit diversity. We want to send our diversity recruiters to college campuses, and we're going to get the talent. Well, if you're a recruiter here, get in line, because so does everybody else. But you have to do it differently. You have to speak to our community. You have to connect to our community. You cannot show up on our college campuses and think that you're going to connect with the students, that they're going to come and talk to you, and you have a really good package, benefits. You all do. It is I'm not telling you nothing new about the hiring market, but that's an awareness that you need to have. So a couple of things that you can do differently that I think would give you an edge in being able to help the students is, we talked a lot about mentorship and sponsorship, and yes, we need to have that. But I'm going to tell you how you can do it a little bit differently. I was very impressed with 3M this morning telling the story of starting with a room full of people and now in 700. And that's really great for 3M, but what is that doing for the community? Because we have ERGs in the communities, but not every Latino has an opportunity to go work at a big corporation that has the thankful to 3M for being able to sponsor that and that identity. Many of us are, many of you work in small businesses, middle-sized businesses. So what I'm telling you to do today is there's people in this room that work for ALFA, the Association of Professional Latinos for America. They work, I know someone from US Bank back there in the back. These are all my St. Thomas graduates, and I'm going to point them out as a good teacher would. And what do? Prospanica over there. We have Andrea for Prospanica. We have Latino Lead. We have organizations
you have ASE back there, too. I'm vice chair of the board of directors of ASE.
There you go. And the difference with this organization,
uh-oh.
Okay, it's not dying on me, but I can yell really loud. The difference is that you're working with the community. You're bringing others outside the community. You're going to be able to meet people from different industries. You're going to be able to meet those students or those, because they all have chapters at the university. So the University of St. Thomas, we have a chapter for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and they connect with the Society of Professional Engineers in the Twin Cities. Those probably are members of your ERG group here. But it's a collective. It adheres to our values of collectivismo, familismo. So I would say to you, think about sponsoring your employees to go outside of your ERGs and become part of this larger community, to support the larger community. I think, second of all, I think we need to tell our stories. I just had an opportunity to speak to a group of leaders that graduated from Latino Lead on Saturday, and I spoke about the power of our stories. Mm-hmm. If we don't tell a Latino story, someone else is going to tell it for us. Mm-hmm. So I need more of you that are in the corporate spaces to take the time to tell your stories, but make that your Latino story. Mm-hmm. Make it the story of your immigration, your struggles, the things that you got today. I think it's great that you have a 30, 60-second elevator pitch. We all do. But make yours a Latino. Because we need young people to see you. We need young people. I was speaking to Janisa, also back there, and they're all saying, oh my gosh, quit calling me out like in class. And I said, you have to go speak to my college campus. You have to show these young Latinos that you can major in finance and in accounting, in the STEM sciences. I need you to take the time to go to college campuses and spend the time talking to the students. We need to change the rhetoric, and we need to think about how do we show up educated and prepared. Then I was going to say, put your money where your mouth is. We need scholarship money.
Yes.
The number one factor why Latino students don't complete their education is financial. So you think about, I had a conversation with a recruiter, and they were like, oh, we don't know if we could give scholarships. We are thinking about it. Students have financial aid. If you're majoring in the STEM sciences, and you're going to be an engineer, it's probably going to take you 5 years to graduate. Mm-hmm. If you're Pell Grant eligible, you would only get 4 years of funding. Who pays for that extra year? If you have an internship opportunity, maybe make it part of your internship that you will also give scholarship money to the students and help them complete that education. Latinos were the most loyal people. We are loyal. If somebody gives us a hand, we never forget. So corporations are poised to give a hand and help. Then I think also we cannot forget about our dreamers. We cannot forget about DACA and dreamers. There's 800 to 1 million Latinos that are DACA eligible, undocumented students, and they're part of our schools. I looked at the data this morning. It's about 7,000 of them in Minnesota, and they're graduating and they're work eligible. They can come work for you for a long time. And we need to remember their stories, and we need to be able to work with them and give that opportunity to them. And then I have one more. Let me look at my notes. Just working with the community. I think we value confianza. So if we know somebody and somebody tells us these are good people, these are good company, we'll go there. It's one of our Latino cultural scripts. And I would say when you think about Casa de Esperanza, and I know you changed your name and I can't think of what it is right now, and I think about Ya and Clues, these are organizations, El Centro, we're all here. Es como una reunión de familia today. We can go work with them. You can be mentors. You can go work with them, be sponsors. When they call you for the sponsorship to do one of their events, give them the money. We'll remember. If you look, I'm not a marketing expert, but I think there's a couple in the house. We are brand conscious people. We have loved Coca-Cola forever because they told us it was good for us. So if you see the names of the companies out there and you start recognizing that, I looked at today, when I got invited, I go, who is sponsoring these Latinos today? I go, 3M, I'm impressed. US Bank, General Mills, I remember, I see you. When your recruiter comes to campus or when you contact me, I might just think a little bit different because I might just think that you opened the door for me, like you welcome me as a Latino, and I might do something for you. So think of our community, work with our community, and give back to your community because you're in a position to do so. Send your employees, allow them to take off work to go attend these events, and thank you for many of you whose companies allowed you to come here today and do that. And so hopefully that's just a few more, but if you need some more, connect me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to give you a long list.
Amen. So I'm gonna supplement that very quickly, and that call to action is, and it's something you said right in the beginning. You talked about recruiting differently, right? My call to action to every corporate organization or company is to go to where we go to school. Many of us do go to Harvard. Many of us do go to Princeton. Many of us do go to Stanford. I went to Our Lady of the Lake University, small Catholic university in San Antonio, and I was only there because I got a partial scholarship and my dad drove all 24 hours to get me there. So go where we go to school. Your junior colleges, there's a wealth of talent there. Your state schools, your smaller schools, go where we go to school. Come get us, because the talent is there. So that's my call to action. Any other?
Go to the University of St. Thomas, too.
Right. There's the plug. Absolutely.
Tommy's in the house.
So we've talked about what corporate America can do. We've talked about our historical underpinnings. We've talked about what are some of the tools, resources, opportunities to raise the level of inclusion and development of our next generation Latinos, as well as what happens when we get in the door. You spoke to that, as all of you have spoken to that. once we get in the door. It's the emergence of employee resource groups, or BRGs, sometimes as they're called. It's the higher you go, the rarer the air gets. It's having that support, that camaraderie to help propel us through. I am a never-ending learner, all right? I am always learning. I believe that in order for me to be outstanding, and by the way, the word outstanding has no limit to it, that I must continue to learn. So as we move on, we're going to end up with Basil. We save the best for last. And that is, what are the best practices you have seen to address development issues faced by Latinos?
Buenas tardes, bonsoir, good afternoon. My name is Basil. I was born and raised in the Central African nation of Cameroon. I was raised by my grandmother. I never had access to internet. I never had access to computer. I never had access to any technology. And when I came to the United States of America 9 years ago, I came along with me with these challenges. When I came here, my goal was to go to college. I wanted to go to school, and I found North Hennepin Community College. But I was also lagging behind as far as English was concerned. I wanted to also have a job. I also wanted to start up a small business. But access to technology was actually a barrier for me to go to college. I could not know how to complete the application or to use internet to find where I was supposed to go to, or to even understand basic tools that are actually available. But someone who was a Latino held my hand, took me to North Hennepin Community College. While at North Hennepin Community College, I interacted with many DACA students. These were young boys and girls with dreams and hopes. We were in the same class. But before I got to that class, I have to face another challenge. Everything was having to use a computer. Even to sign up for a class, you must be asked to go to D2L. You cannot access D2L in the air or in the space or in the mountain. You need to face something called technology. All these were challenges. And I started to ask myself, what were the resources that I really had around me? And I went now to ask for support for young students who were privileged enough to grow and be raised in a family that have technology. They know how to manipulate things. I had to ask them, what is the meaning of Word? What is the meaning of Excel? What is the meaning of D2L? And little younger sisters who I now call adults and friends and neighbors that I'm incredibly proud to God to know them really changed my life with technology. Just by standing behind my back and pointing at things how I needed to access technology. Then I thought that to give back to them, there were also things that I was good at, trying to bring people together, forming clubs, and also helping the young people to be active on campus. I asked them, come and let's form the Latino club on campus, a Spanish-speaking club. That's where I began to learn how to speak Spanish, and I fell in love with Spanish, and I started taking Spanish classes because of my Spanish community. I told them, let's join Student Senate. We're very active in Student Senate. I told them, let's join the Minnesota State Student Association. We joined Minnesota Student Association. I told them, let's go out to the corporate and bring in people that can really inspire us, who can really speak to us and really help us, mentor us or support us and help us with some challenges. We went out to the community together and built this relationship with the community leaders, with cooperatives, with senior executives, with nonprofit, with foundations, with government leaders. I told them, come with me, let's go to the state capitol. I don't know technology, but I also think that here that I'm passionate about, which is about community building. We went back to the state capitol. We met politicians. That was the first time I entered Minnesota Supreme Court. That was the first time I was able to see the governor's mansion. That was the first time I was able to connect with legislators. But the goal was actually here was, what is it that we could help our young children who are in school to be also successful? We found out that in each of those clubs, either Student Senate, these students were becoming already leaders of the future of this country, nation. They were the dreamers of our nation. And 99% of each of those clubs that were organized, there were 7 different clubs. 99 of them were really able to graduate from schools because they were active and they were inspiration for other people in the community. Even though we left North Hennepin Community College more than 7 years ago, we still meet weekly or monthly for dinner to really talk about all the challenges that we had. But one of the biggest barriers that we also had was finance. Many DACA students say, you cannot have financial aid. You're DACA. You cannot buy a house. You don't have a social. So we had all these challenges that were barriers for us in school. So scholarship really helped me to pay my way to school. Scholarship really make my life easier, but it also make life difficult for others. And when we created Minnesota Africans United, we went back to the African immigrant community. We asked the African immigrants, who are people in your life from the continent of Africa that you want to feel like you be like them? We started to ask this question from K to 12 and in colleges. And many people say, I want to be like Kofi Annan. I want to be Nelson Mandela. So we went back to see how many scholarships have been created. And then we created a Kofi Annan scholarship program where we give $2,500 to African immigrant students with access to mentorship. We do that every November, and we think that there is a pathway already to help break the barrier of school funding, and also training many African immigrants to become realtors, also start up their small businesses, or to have access to technology. So all the problems that I faced, all the problems that our DACA students face, or my community members really face, this is the time for us to really come together and build a stronger and a vibrant community to make us very, very successful in the market. But one thing that was very challenging is it's difficult to talk to 3M. You want to know the truth. But it's easier to talk to middle-sized company. It's easier to talk to startup. 3M, from our experience, not only 3M, but Fortune 500 companies, they're the big boys. Many people, they're fighting to have access to their doors. So they prefer to go to Harvard University, Yale, Stanford. But they have forgotten our Minnesota State colleges, our private colleges, in really investing in our community and making it us build our lives up so we can also continue to be advance our community in a way that reflects our dreams in this nation. So we send emails, we make phone calls. We really wanted 3M to. I don't know which magic you guys play to have you be here. We went through rocks and roll to have 3M. But anyway, I just wanted to just summarize that having access to help access to technology for young kids that are already now in college or in school is one of the fundamental ways to helping them with their resume building at early stages, interviewing them, helping them with interviewing skills at every early stages, helping them have access to mentors at 3M or corporate America or wherever they want to be is one of the ways that we think will help. Helping parents to also inspire their children to be active in community campuses and having access to mentors, and also helping to come together, put our resources together. We should not only be looking at 3M. Let's look at our wallet as well. Put money into a fund and reinvest that money into the Latino community so we can change the economic landscape of our nation. Thank you so much.
You absolutely really summed it up in terms of it's everyone's responsibility to uplift and build our next generation, and having that access to mentorship, having that access to opportunities, building a vibrant community requires investment from all of us. Many of time I will go, as well as many of my colleagues, as well as some of you, will go into a school. I went to my former grammar school, and it wasn't to talk at them, it was to talk with them. It was to get them someone that looked like them, that was first generation, that came from extremely humble beginnings, and lend that path along the way, and not just talk at them, as I said, but talk with them, mentor them, sponsor them, elevate them. So with that, any final thoughts? We've run a little bit over time. Thank you for your patience. Any final thoughts? Any final calls to actions?
Yeah, let me just close my final thoughts. I know we are really here at 3M if 3M can make a 10-year commitment to the Latino community and say, I'm committed to support the Latino community for 10 years so that your young kids in K-12, in colleges, can have access to internships at their doors, can have access to opportunities, networking with them, that will be wonderful. Also funding the research work of the Latinos to see their economic contributions to the Minnesota economy or to the United States economy is something that will be very, very powerful. We don't only want 1 year funding or 2 year funding and leave us hanging in the air, make at least a commitment for a long-term commitment of growth. That's how we see the dynamics of workforce, how workforce is going to change in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, panel. Thank you very much.